Streaming live around the world, this is Paper Cuts with Brad and Jay.
We'll just get this out of the way here. Thanks for joining us on Brad's show.
Yeah, thanks for coming to my show. I did not say shenanigans. Okay.
Are you drinking already?
No, I've just got water. Always looking smooth, aren't you?
Yeah, I do it. I try to clean up for the show. Look, one of us has to. Come on.
Joining us this evening, the legendary Ronald Kelly. We are live.
What was that? Was that you, Brad? Was that you doing that?
I can't claim that one, Jay. That's all you, man.
What's up, everyone? Here we go. Welcome to the season finale.
Ooh,
wow.
Season 3 finale. Who would have thunk it that we would have been together this long? 3 seasons. That's just ludicrous.
That's true. That's true love, Jay. It's true. How do you do the heart? Is that what it is?
I know. It's like, how have I not shut this down yet? I don't know what's going on. How have I not shut this down yet? My name is Jay. That's Brad over there. So we figured for our season finale, we need a legend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did. We went out and got ourselves a legend for the season 3 finale. And it's always special when we get a repeat guest. Most of the guests are like one and done. They're like, screw this, we're not coming back. No. So we're always
we try to message them. They're like, new phone, who this?
I know. It's like right away. So we're always grateful and appreciative when we get like somebody returning. And that's who we have this evening. Everyone, please welcome to the show, Ronald Kelly. Ronald, good evening. Thanks so much for stopping by.
What's going on, Ron?
The check is in the mail for you.
I'll be looking for it.
Yeah. Just don't cash it for a while.
It's not a very big check.
It's like pennies.
So first up, I wanted to give you an early congratulations on your retirement, because you said you're retiring in November or so.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a long time coming, you know.
Yeah, the exact date set and everything, right?
Yeah, the 18th of November.
All right.
Be a free man. at least work wise, I'll be a free man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then the 19th, you're going to wake up. We're like, well, what am I supposed to do now? You know,
I got plenty to do. Don't worry.
He knows what he's doing. I can't. Your output is so high now. I can't imagine what your output's going to be when you don't have to go to work every day.
Yeah, my brain's just busting. You know, it's ready to break open. it's crammed full of ideas. You know,
so you're just getting started. That's what we're gonna go with that. You're just getting started now. So here we go. Look at everybody.
Like James Patterson, he's got so many ideas. You're gonna have to get people to write your books for you because you got so many ideas. You be the poor version of James Patterson.
Yeah, but you're not gonna have people write your stuff. You're gonna do it yourself.
No, he's gonna write it himself.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, since you are retiring and you've been writing like shorter stuff, like short stories and kind of novella kind of stuff, do you think you'll go back and do writing bigger, longer novels like Fear and stuff, like you did with Zebra?
I will. Yeah, I've got at least 4 novels in my head that I want to sit down and write now. Probably Fear 2, which it'll be titled Fear Eternal, will be the first thing I start working on, and it'll probably be a big one. You know, I wouldn't think that I would do a sequel to Fear without putting a little. Yeah, there's Fear there.
What year was Fear? Was that?
It was 1994.
94. So we're a lot of what was that? 30 years about?
Yeah, about 31 years, I think.
Yeah. Jay's good at math.
I was going to say, well, where's my calculator? But yeah, it's like, so is it going to be like set that way, like 30 years later, or is it just going to be like a continuation? Or
it's not going to be set in the same time period. It's going to be, you know, later on, and I don't want to give too much away, but it's if you read my story Beneath the Branches and the Seasons Creepings Christmas collection, that story is almost like a lead in to Fear Eternal. So
okay.
So that'll give you an idea of what direction it's going in. So
how long have you been thinking about Fear 2? Because you said just a second ago you didn't think you'd ever write a sequel for it.
Well, not very long. Maybe the past year, because I never could get a solid grip on exactly what I wanted to do if I brought the characters back, or at least maybe a couple of characters. But it hit me, I guess about 8 months ago, it hit me exactly what I wanted to do with it. And I actually sat down and wrote the last chapter. I mean, the last chapter that's the way it's going to be when it's published. That's the first time I've ever done that, but I think it's a good, solid, emotional chapter. It might make some people cry.
You did the last chapter
always good
first.
To cry.
That was the last chapter first. You read.
Yeah, that's weird because I've never done that before.
I've heard of people doing that before. Yeah, but that is. How was that experience for you?
It's good because I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Now you just have to figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
How to get there now.
I just have to do the beginning and the middle, and then I've got the capper on done, so I don't have to worry about it anymore.
It's a cakewalk. You'll get there.
Do you think while you're writing it, do you think the ending will change, or are you preset in stone that that's what it's going to be?
That's how it's going to end.
Okay.
But up to that point, I don't. I've got a beginning kind of mapped out, and some of the middle. But it's going to be a stranger book than the other book because, lately I've been kind of incorporating some cosmic horror in my writing. With Dead-Eye. Saga of Dead-Eye, and it's kind of gonna drift into Fear County. Maybe kind of explain why Fear County is like the most evil county in the world. So
yeah, very sinister county. Yeah,
because if you read that, they sort of go through Fear County at one point. I don't want to give too much away, but sort of a prequel to it in a way. I'll really like that part. And let's see. William had a question up here. Any chance of Fear getting a physical reprint? And I feel like you teased that maybe in your newsletter the other day. Yes,
we've got it in the works right now. Thunderstorm Books is going to put out a limited edition. Nice. It's going to be this is going to be a really special. I mean, I think it's only going to be a lettered one. So,
okay. But everything Thunderstorm does is pretty big. So
this is going to have all the bells and whistles and some color throughout the book and I'm actually going to do special remarks for all the books. They'll all be, it's not going to be a printed remark. It's going to be something I'm going to hand draw in the book and everything. So, awesome. Plus Brian Keene's done the introduction to it. So, and Alex McVeigh's done a wonderful cover illustration, cover painting for it. So that's kind of appropriate because Alex does about 85% of my covers. So
right,
yeah.
So I went to Alex and I said, I'm going to put Fear out again. I'd really like something that's really, the zebra one with the kids hanging from still in the cave and the cocoons. That was okay. I mean, okay, but that was a zebra cover. So
yeah.
I wanted something that was more, akin to the actual story, and I think he nailed it. I think everybody's going to love it.
Is that the author's preferred edition that you teased at the end of the letter?
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. That's exciting because Thunderstorm, they put out great books, and you've worked with them quite a bit throughout the years.
Oh yeah. Actually, I've had like 19 Thunderstorm books. I've worked on 19 Thunderstorm books. There has been a few that's been like a story and a collection or something like that Paul put together. But the majority of them was my own solo books.
Yeah. So you're basically saying you're the foundation for Thunderstorm books.
No, I'm just a little piece of something.
Yeah, just the corners.
I think Paul's put out almost 400 books. I mean,
really?
Yeah. So I'm not. I think the last time I talked to him, it's been a while, but I'm sure he's put out more than that since then.
For the sequel, that's what we're going to call it now. For a sequel, do you have publishers knock on your door wanting to just grab it, or is that way down the line?
I've already got
you got that set up already.
Yeah, Crossroads.
Okay.
Chris is gonna do it Crossroads, they handle like 80% of my backlist, you know, zebra books and stuff like that. And they're really great to work with and really fast to work with. I mean, if I tell them, you know, if I want to put out a little collection of stories, you know, they usually have it, you know, ready in about a month and a half, 2 months, and we get it out there. So
yeah, they specialize in getting some of the older ones back out and running, right? I saw that on Twitter. I think I think maybe their website says something about it too. So that's cool. Getting some of these older ones. I think that's how
they started out, like getting, you know, the backlist, the old horror novels back into print. That's how mine got back into print when I came back, is they started putting them out. And
that's cool because it's like a whole new generation gets to check them out now too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I saw that you were talking about it in Southern Fried Horrified. I didn't realize they'd been around that long, because they were starting to do stuff in the late 2000s, mid 2000s or so, putting your stuff back out.
Yeah, they put out pretty much all the zebra books in ebook, and did several of them in audiobook. And I think the first audiobook they did was Hell Hollow, but that wasn't a zebra book. That was a cemetery dance book. Actually, it was a zebra book. It was on Zebra's schedule. Yeah. When they shut down, and of course, when I came back in 2006, I actually had 2 full-length books ready to go. You know.
Yeah, because you'd sent both of them to Zebra, hadn't you?
Yeah. It was Restless Shadows and Hell Hollow was the 2 that Zebra had on their schedule when they shut down. So Richard Chismar, he called me right after I came back and asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, well, I'd like to do a novel and a short story collection, because I'd never had a short story collection before. And he put together Midnight Grinding and Other Twilight Terrors. That was, you know, like all my small press stories from the mid 80s to the mid 90s. So that was kind of cool, putting all that together. And then we did Hell Hollow.
Yeah. Nick here, your number one fan, Spooky Noodles. Apparently he hasn't read all your books yet.
He hadn't read Hell Hollow, Nick.
Oh, he's slipping down the list.
Nick's in trouble now.
Yeah. He's not your number one stalker anymore. That's just...
I'll give him some slack. He's done enough for me. You know?
Yeah, he's got everything else.
So. He practically brought Fear back into the limelight. So
now that I think of it, I think my copy of Fear actually came from him. So yeah. So he's working overtime. When I read it a couple years back, I think he's the one that sent it to me. So
I'll give Nick credit on his book hauls when he would talk about your books. It was the first time I'd heard of your stuff before, so I'll give credit to Nick.
Yeah, he's done good for me.
He's probably turning really red right now too.
Nick's a good guy.
Yeah, I actually met him at Scares That Cares last year. You know, he came and it was great to see him. You know, he's a little nervous around me.
We know he's posted a picture everywhere. he's got it in his wallet now when he meets people. Hey, look where I met. You know, so yeah.
Well, he says I give everyone that book. Every time he gets a copy of Fear, he gives it to somebody.
So with the follow-up to Fear, you're saying it's going to be a pretty big chunker, right? I mean, is it going to be the longest one you've ever written? What's the longest one you've written?
Longest one I've written is probably 475 pages. Because
you think this one's going to beat that one?
I don't know. Nowadays I like to write smaller novels, you know, because back in the Zebra days, they pretty much, that's what they wanted. They wanted the big door stoppers, and they put a stipulation in their contracts where it had to be 450 to 500 pages, and sometimes it was a stretch getting there, you know. But
I don't think the novella was around back then. If it was, you didn't hear about it.
It was, but it wasn't. You know, it wasn't like presented. Like as a solo publication. You know? It was usually in a collection of novellas, like Dark Harvest back in the mid '80s and early '90s put out a series of hardcovers, and it had like 3 authors, and they all did at least 2 novellas in it. And so that's the way novellas were presented back then. You know,
right
now that's almost a standard. You know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it definitely is in the horror community because I mean, it's our attention spans are just not not there anymore. not in this generation. No.
Well, I don't read as much as I used to. I'm so busy writing, but I like the novella length works because that I can read one in a couple of days or maybe faster if it's very well written and it's got a good pace to it. And
I think it all just because I love door stoppers like It or Boy's Life, but I love stuff like Crossroads or tiny things like that. It just depends on what the story is. If the story merits 1,000 pages, then let it be. If it merits 99 pages, then let it be that.
Well, there's a lot of I've seen a lot of readers post stuff about the longer books, the older books being boring, and they need to hurry up and get to the point and all that. But that's the way it was back then. I mean, the readers liked the character development and extra subplots and stuff like that. And now it's so streamlined that that's what everybody expects now.
I think authors can hammer out several novellas in a shorter period of time. You have people that could probably hammer out 7 or 8 a year. You're like, take a break. Write a long one. Take a year, write a long one. Nope, 7 or 8 novellas. You're ready to go. So, and
like you were saying, it's the attention span. Like now we have Netflix. They dump a whole season of a show on there.
Yeah.
There's TikTok and all this stuff. So they just don't have. There's so much other stuff. Like people don't have the time or the attention span to read a big book. Read something short, and we'll go watch our TV show or whatever it is.
I think COVID kind of triggered a lot of that. The binging and everything.
Oh yeah.
Because when I grew up, I mean, your television shows came 1 week at a time. They didn't. You didn't. You couldn't just sit down and watch.
It wasn't in summertime. It was always fall, winter. Take some time off. Finish up in spring.
Now I remember when I was a kid, the original Batman with Adam West, they had 2 shows a week on that. It was,
really?
Yeah, they would have the show that had the cliffhanger at the end of it, and then like on Tuesday, and then on Thursday they would have where the cliffhanger continues.
Conclusion. Yeah.
So that draws you into the cliffhanger. It's like, oh God, I can't miss next week because back then you're not
bat channel.
Same bat channel. You got it. Yeah. Kelly, I had a question up here I wanted to get to about the
Dead-Eye
Saga.
Volume 2.
That leads into some other questions there. So any word on the next?
I just Thunderstorm's working on it for a limited hardcover, and Crossroads has already got their part done. We're waiting on Alex to finish the cover for number 2.
Okay.
Number 2's was a blast. I mean, it's a monster fest. It's got werewolves and swamp critters and ghosts, and I mean, it's got a lot of supernatural stuff and a lot of kind of in the Dead-Eye Saga. There's there's number 1. There's a dark witch called Evangeline, and she actually carries a Necronomicon with her, and she opens portals, and this portal called the Hole out of nowhere. She recruits like different old gods and creatures and stuff to fight Dead-Eye and his sidekick Job. So anything can show up in Dead-Eye. I even have some arcade mythos stuff coming. I mean, actually have the snake critter and from Fear and number 1 because they passed through Fear County.
It's like a crossover. It's like the Ronald Kelly universe.
I mean, it's been really fun doing that. And I never thought I'd even have. I mean, until people started getting interested in fear, I didn't even think about doing that. And then people started talking about my mythos, and I didn't think I had a mythos. And then I started looking at some of my stories and things, I had mentioned certain things and other, like the werewolves and Undertaker's Moon and Grandpappy Craven and Bloodkin, people would, be talking about, some of the characters would kind of reference them and all that. And so, Dead-Eye, I mean, I actually had the flying rattlesnakes from After the Burn and Dead-Eye 1 in one chapter.
Yeah.
So you were building your mythos without realizing you were building your mythos, kind of.
Yeah. But now I'm consciously building it and using it.
So the first Dead-Eye, and I, I'll try to tread lightly with some of the subject here.
Don't spoil it, Jay.
No, not that. But it was released through Silver Shamrock, correct?
Mm-hmm, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You've been through that situation many times before that happened with Silver Shamrock, and without rehashing history of what happened earlier this summer and all that stuff, it seems like you were a little bit more prepared than some of the other writers, unfortunately, because of course, it hit everybody broadsided. But you have been through this many times before.
Yeah, I
several times actually, right? I think you told me what 5, 6, 7 times.
Actually, 7 times. Yeah,
7 times. Yeah,
that's insane.
It is.
So, what was your initial thoughts and reactions?
Well, it was hard. It was still hard, but because I didn't know anything about it, people started to, message me, and I went over on Twitter, and everything blown up, and a very prominent person said, "Well, I'm never going to support or review a book by Silver Shamrock again." And I thought, that's a kick in the gut for me, because I had a new book out, and I had the Haunt of Southern Fried Fear out, and and it was actually, the pre-order was doing great and everything, and then this happened, and it just lost steam after that, because it was without a home for a couple weeks, and then Crossroads approached me, and we decided all the Silver Shamrock books would go to them, and I really credit Kenneth Kane for stepping in and getting everybody's materials to the publishers that picked up their work, and for helping to get our rights back to these works, because it made everything so much easier than it could have been. It could have been a total
disaster. Well, we all saw him working overtime on Twitter, telling people
he was
with updates and everything like that. So, yeah.
So did you get all of your stuff from Silver Shamrock? Is it with somebody else now?
Yeah, it's all with Crossroads. And,
okay.
I'm glad you mentioned somebody had said they're not going to review a book from Silver Shamrock anymore. That's just that's taking it out on the wrong person. That's totally taking it out.
I've actually
kicking the author writer down. So
I've actually had people tell me, "Well, I'm not going to buy that book from you directly because it has the Silver Shamrock emblem on it." Well, that just hurts me. I mean, it's if I have a copy of that book, I'm going to get the money for it. Silver Shamrock's not.
Right.
As for, they really put out some nice books. It was good quality books and everything, and it's just unfortunate, that things went the way they did.
Yeah. And this one, it was only out it actually came out for just like a couple of days.
Yeah.
Was it out?
About 2 weeks.
I didn't think it was out yet.
About a week before, I think. And I think
Jeremy Hepworth's.
Yeah, his came out
just a couple of days, I think.
Yeah, a couple of days before.
And then I think Tim McGregor's was due to come out like the next week, and his just never came out. And his finally got a new home. He talked about it the other day.
Did any of the other writers that went through this, did anybody reach out to you for any kind of advice or anything?
No, but I I reached out to them, and I just kind of assured them that things wasn't it wasn't the end of the line or anything like that, and I actually kind of referred some of them to certain publishers, and I actually went to some publishers and kind of I'm not saying I was like a go-between or anything like that, but
right.
But I would suggest maybe you should look at this author's work here. I think it'd fit real good in with your publishing line and all that. And so it was unfortunate, and I mean, there's a few that's just now starting to. I know Chad Luxby and. Who wrote the book Wormwood with him? Was it
Tim Meyer?
Tim Meyer, yeah.
Yeah.
They just placed Wormwood with Crossroads, so
okay.
That's been a little while. I think they were looking for the right publisher, and Crossroads, they're very good. They put out a quality product, and the royalty cut is incredible. I mean, that's
good.
It's so much better than so many others, So then they pay monthly, so that's a nice payment you get monthly on your, especially if you have as many books as I do. Actually, my royalty statement is 27 pages every time.
Oh my gosh. and that seems like a publisher you could trust, because, like I said, you've been working with them since mid 2000s or so they've been around for a while.
Yeah.
It was cool to see. There was more than a handful of publishers step up on Twitter, showing support to a lot of the authors, and then it seemed like for the following month or so after it happened, people were just like, "Hey, I landed a new home," and it was just almost every day somebody new was being announced that they landed a new home, which was pretty cool. That other publishers went out there and started grabbing people. So.
And it happened on the weekend of ArthurCon, so there was a lot of those writers that was there at that convention that and I'm sure that was like a blow. You're meeting your readers and having a good time, and all of a sudden, bam,
Right.
It was good to see the community sort of come together and support everybody like that.
Yeah, it was.
So you kind of reached out to a few, gave some advice. For anyone that you didn't talk to, do you have any additional advice, like what if it happens again in the future, something that people could do to prepare for something like this?
Yeah, I would say don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify, publish with different publishers.
Right.
I would avoid doing multi-book deals, because I know several with Silver Shamrock had signed like I think a couple of them did like sign 5 books or something like that.
Yeah.
And the thing about doing I did multi-book deals with Zebra, but that was a different situation. That was almost like having a job, security of a job,
Yeah.
But I'd say with in the indie press, I would go one work at a time, as far as with a publisher. Of course I am doing like some of the, like Dead-Eye. That's a series. It's going to have 5 books to it, and then I've got the Southern Fried EC horror inspired collections, and there's going to be 3 of those. But that's pretty much something that I'm orchestrating on my own, and I'll just put it out when I want to put it out and have it ready. So I guess when you get as old as I am, you got a little leeway to do stuff like that. But
and if you want other little nuggets of wisdom like that, you should check out Southern Fried and Horrified, because he's got little sections called Grits and Bits where he gives you little tips of wisdom like that throughout the book.
Yeah, that's I don't know how much they'll help everybody, but it was fun putting it together, and a lot of some of that stuff was stuff I'd like tweeted on Twitter and put on Facebook, and I kind of collected it together, and there's a few longer pieces. There were some essays in that book that might help people, And so, yeah, it was fun, just telling my story and giving a little advice and doing some top 10 list of what my favorite stuff. And
how long have you been working on that one?
Actually, not very long. I guess maybe a year. I came up with an idea, and I tweeted on there, would anybody be interested in a memoir writing guide from me? And Brian said, yeah, please. So if Brian wants it, he's going to get it. So I wrote a few sample chapters, and I've really wanted to get in, one of my bucket list publishers was always Death's Head Press. And then Jared announced he was going to, open up Stygian Sky and do nonfiction books. And so I pitched it to him, and he said, yeah, send me some sample chapters. And so I had a few, and I sent them to him, and he said, yeah, I want to do this book. So that's how that got started. And so I sat down and wrote the rest of it. It didn't take very long. I was just sitting at the keyboard reminiscing. And
I was saying, did I feel weird though? You were just talking about yourself,
writing about yourself.
yeah. Well,
because you're not really a character, right? So you can't make yourself into a monster. You can't make yourself die. Or you can't make yourself whatever.
Well, I don't know. Some people might think I'm a monster. I didn't used to be as nice as I am now. Just read the chapter called "Angry Young Man." That was
Angry Man. Yeah,
I was a butthole back then.
Well, that's the tagline to sell it. I was a butthole back then. Look at me now. Yeah.
So what was it weird though, writing about yourself? Did you approach it differently than writing fiction?
I just approached it in a storytelling way, like I was just telling the story. And I remember, when my grandmother used to tell me stories of her childhood, the way she told them was pretty much the way I told my story. It was just tried to make it as interesting as I could, and give some tidbits about me that nobody knows. I think my wife read the book and found out a whole lot of stuff about me she didn't know.
So why did you tell me all this?
You got a whole different view now. That's uh-oh.
And I know
there is.
My oldest daughter's read it, I think, and I think there's some stuff in there she didn't know about me, because they just know Daddy from a certain point, and then of course, they're used to Daddy being a horror writer, but they don't think anything about it. They just think I'm weird.
Like I told you off air, I liked all the little nuggets of wisdom you had, but more so I just enjoyed you talking about your growing up and your love of monsters and comic books and all that stuff. I was infatuated with it. It was fun.
That got me through a lot of stuff. I mean, I was like the smallest boy in my class, and I was bullied constantly, and my monsters were my friends. I'd come home from school and I'd get my famous monster magazines, or I'd break open a fresh Aurora monster model box and put it together, and actually, when I reached 11 or 12, I wanted to be a ventriloquist, so I had dummies.
I think you told us that once before. About wanting to be a ventriloquist. So now that this book exists, people could do history reports about you now. Very cool.
Ronald Kelly book report.
Yeah. So I'm just waiting for somebody some 9th grade, 10th grade have to do a book report. Let's do a history report about Ronald Kelly.
Yeah, that's
why not?
In the 8th grade, we had a library, and it had these little biographies, of all the famous, Lincoln and Benjamin Franklin and all that. And I read 96 of those in 1 year. I remember my teacher bragging to my mother that I read 96, but I love to read biographies and stuff some people, they get to a certain point and then they get kind of, hey, there's my daughter, Riley. Hey, baby.
Ronnie,
Love you
start a
too.
book report on your dad. There you
There you
go.
go.
Start your book, your book, the history book report about your dad. Go for
Yeah.
it.
Well, she's 24, so she don't do book.
Okay, she don't need to do it. I guess she's past that.
Yeah, she's
You
fixing to
wrote it
get
too late for her.
she's fixing to get married. So,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
yeah, you might have saw the picture of me in my suit. You know, my
You're fancy. I used it for the thumbnail
Yeah,
for the video.
that's my wedding suit. That's what I'm gonna walk her down.
Nice.
And she's actually having a haunted mansion themed kind of wedding.
You should officiate the whole thing then.
That's freaking awesome. That's
pretty,
awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're actually having it in church, so that's kind of weird to have a haunted mansion.
Are you
church.
decorated all up at church?
I mean, I'm over here like, I just had a regular traditional one. I wanted that one.
She practically grew up in Disney World. I mean, we would take the kids, every other year at least, and so, Riley especially just loves Disney, anything Disney.
Yeah. So when does Southern Fried and Horrified come out? Because I know you're having the launch party next weekend on the 3rd.
Yeah, we're having the launch party on the 3rd on Saturday, and on the 6th is when the official release date.
Did I see a billboard?
Hey, you did.
Yeah.
That was dope.
We are the lady. We're having the book launch in a restored train depot here locally, and it's been used as art, for art shows and stuff, craft shows and art shows. And the one over it is our high school art teacher, Jenny Pena.
Cool.
And she's really been a big supporter of mine, and she put together that design for the billboard, and it's a community billboard, so it didn't cost us anything.
Okay.
And
that's even better.
and of course, the other night I had to stand out there for like 10 minutes waiting for mine to come back up
to scroll through,
because there was all these real estate agents and like a cannabis shop and all kinds of different.
So if somebody's not paying attention, they're going to call you to buy a house and weed. So.
They won't find no weed with me.
Like I don't sell houses, but let me tell you about these books. All right,
there you go.
Yeah.
We sell you some books.
I'll sell you some books.
And you got you got Lynn Hanson's gonna be there, and Jeff Strand,
right?
And
Rodney Turner, who does most of my audio books. So
okay.
And he's going to do some readings of some of my stories and stuff. So it's going to be cool, And I'm glad that that Lynn and Jeff agreed to come as guests. And that's going to be really neat, because we got a lot of people from the Books of Horror Facebook communities coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've got people coming from Kentucky and North Carolina and Dawn Shea from of D&T. She's going to come up from.
Okay.
You've done a couple of books for D&T.
Oh yeah,
after the Burns D&T and
Web of Lasagne, the spider book.
The spider book. I just refer to the spider book. Yeah,
that's what everybody calls it.
Yeah.
So
is this the first time you've had like a big launch party like this, like public launch party for a book?
Say, Jared actually hired a PR firm, to help promote this book, and they've really, actually, they have gotten me. I don't know if they've gone through or not, but I've done a piece for Publisher Weekly and one for Rue Morgue. They'll probably be coming out. It's got the Rue Morgue one's going to be 10 creature feature books to read for Halloween, and I just finished that and turned that in, and I'm working on a piece right now for Writer's Digest. So that was things, I didn't think I'd ever write anything for those magazines, because I grew up with Writer's Digest. I mean, that's about all you could find to help you with your writing, either that or the writer's market, the big thick hardcover book that had all the places to send your stories and to find agents and stuff like that. That's about all you had back then.
Was the old version of Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Without all the fussing and fighting.
Yeah. All the unneeded drama and garbage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nick's got a question on here.
Okay.
How do you create your endings that rip people's hearts out?
Sometimes. I told Nick that when I wrote Fear, I was probably thinking about him and how I was going to torture him with the ending. So,
yeah.
I get emotional with some of the endings, and there was some like the Buzzard Zone. I mean, I killed a lot of main characters in that book. I actually killed Michelle Garza from the Sisters of Slaughter. I had Michelle and Melissa in that book, and I had James Newman and his family in that book. And
kill them all.
And
no,
Michelle's the only one that got killed. I said, I'm going to kill you, Michelle. What, do you want to be bitten by a zombie, or you want to blow up? Because they were going to blow up. They were going to hold up in the Biltmore house in North Carolina and blow it up. And she said, well, just blow me up. I did,
I think it's a lot of horror fans. It's their dream to get killed and
killed in a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do it. Sometimes I do it with like coworkers, and I change the
well,
name.
if you're looking for names and stuff, if you need names, because I'm sure it's hard to come up with names, unique names all the time. So I mean, if you have people around you, coworkers and stuff, just grab their names and do it.
Somebody gives me a problem at work, I tell them, you better watch out, or I'll have a werewolf rip your lungs out or something.
And this is just me. I'm not a writer, but I feel like having an ending that rips your heart out is more so writing good characters. You're attached to the characters, and when they die, that's really sad, more so than you're trying to figure out a way to make the reader feel sad in a way. It's just getting that attachment to the characters.
A lot of time I don't do it intentionally or consciously. It's where the story goes, and I mean, Fear was a weird book. I woke up one morning and had that idea in my head, and I was going to write a ghost story next for Zebra, and I woke up one morning and had pretty much had all the fear in my head, and I just sat down and started writing, and it didn't take very long. I think I usually wrote a book in 6 to 8 months, and that took me maybe 4.
Okay.
Blood Kin was the quick. I think I wrote that in 2 weeks. Because I really needed the money. Because Zebra would just pay you twice a year, and you didn't know how much they were going to pay you. And if that was your bread and butter, you wanted to get those books out, and you wanted to get multi-book deals, to keep it going. So that's why Blood Kin. But my agent told me, he said Blood Kin was one of his favorite books, and so I don't guess it suffered that it just flowed. It wrote really fast. So
you don't feel like you rushed it on purpose. It just came out quicker.
No, but it paid the rent. You
had to get that story out, or it was going to explode. So just fast typing. Yeah.
And to answer Russell's question, he asked earlier, when will Fear be reprinted? Sometime next year with Thunderstorm Books.
Yeah, well, it could be sooner. It could be by the end of the year, because we're just pretty much waiting on the cover, and so it could be end of October, November, or something like that, in time for my retirement. It'd be
there.
Nice.
You go, retirement party,
retirement gift. Yeah.
So, do you have? And you might not be able to say. Do you have plans to reprint it with a press, or it's available on Amazon stuff instead of just a special edition?
Well, we're gonna do the one Crossroads is putting out. It's gonna be it's gonna be the paperback version of the preferred. It's gonna have the same stuff in it. It's just Crossroads is gonna it's gonna be hardcover, and it's gonna have lots of extra stuff in it the other one didn't.
Okay. And you were doing are the chapbooks from Hell, are they with Crossroads or are they with somebody else?
No, that's with Death's Head Press.
Death's Head Press. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the first one's printed, and the other two are at the printer, so they'll be ready to go pretty soon. And so a lot of people pre-ordered them in the bundles, with all three. So they're still up for pre-order.
Yeah, 3 of those ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
they're actually mine's the first ones. I guess I had them. I had them finished really fast and got them to them, and so they've released mine first, which is probably a good companion piece to go with Southern Fried and Horrified.
So, for those who don't know, what exactly are chapbooks? It's
just a little book. Usually, it was like a novella. I mean, it was just a little thin digest-sized book that was had one novella or 2 or 3 short stories in it, and because back in the small press days, you had the little small press magazines with different stories, they're almost anthology-like, and then you had the chapbooks, they would put out, a solo chapbook of one author, or maybe a collection of, 2 or 3 authors. So yeah, that's. And then the chapbooks went away for a while, and then I came back, and it seemed like what used to be chapbooks are what the indie presses are putting out as solo works now. Because they were pretty much novella length.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, the terminology has changed, I guess, over the years. But like lately,
that's an old term, but I think it's cool that Death's Head and Stygian Sky are kind of bringing some things back that, kind of old school stuff like we used to have back in the old days.
Because we're seeing that word floating around a lot more now on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know.
Other people
Todd Keesling's done some of his own chapbooks, and I think Death's Head did a Lansdale one recently.
Yeah,
I think that was a limited. Are these a limited run, or are they going to be just always available?
I'm not sure. Probably limited. I'm not sure. I hadn't. I'm not sure if they're going to be like some that's always in their catalog, or if it's going to be. Of course, they got several other authors that's going to do them. Jeff Strand and Candace Nola's got some, and Daniel Volpe and Aaron Beauregard, and I think Brian King and Ralph James White's doing some. So, and there's several others too. So, I mean, that's going to be several sets of chapbooks that's going to come out.
And yours are called Somewhere South of Hell.
Somewhere South of Hell. Actually, that was the title. I always wanted to put a Southern horror anthology out, and I tried to pitch it several times. I actually got it almost accepted by Little Brown, from one of the New York publishers one time, but we couldn't decide on a title, and they dropped it because every title I came up with they didn't like. So, and but I always think that everything works out for a reason. If it like I tried to pitch Dead-Eye to Berkeley Books in 1992 or 1993, and they were really interested in doing it, but they didn't think I could sustain like a monster of book. Because they were used to putting out 200, 300 books in a series, and I'd had Dead-Eye, battling aliens and Bigfoot and everything. But see, it worked out because years and years later, I'm putting Dead-Eye out, and I'm putting out the way I want to do it. I'm writing it the way. Because I'm putting a lot of dark humor in it. I have so much fun doing the banter, the banter between Dead-Eye and Job. It's almost like a Happy Leonard kind of relationship. So.
That's your Happen Leonard. There you go.
Job is funny.
Yeah. That rhetoric between the two of them just comes natural. I think to myself, well, I don't want to write anything scary in these books. I just want to make it funny all the way through it.
Well, I mean, now we need the Dead-Eye saga to become a series on Netflix.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Netflix, come on.
I know.
You're able.
When we post this video tomorrow or tonight, we'll just tag them.
Yeah.
Just tag them like every week.
50 minutes in. Yeah. 50 minutes in. We talk about you, Netflix and Hulu and Prime and Sutter and whoever else is out.
Whoever wants to pay for it.
They need a good Western horror series. Yeah. I think that would go over really well, because with Yellowstone and a lot of the Western kind of, I guess Dead-Eye is kind of like my Stephen King,
like your Dark Tower.
My Dark Tower, I guess. But
I would lean towards like Prime or Hulu, because Netflix, if it has a good first season, they'll cancel it. So
yeah, that's the way it seems.
Yeah, right. So
with your chapbooks, to circle back to those really quick, are they novella length, or are they shorter, like what chapbooks are nowadays?
Actually, it's like two stories per chapbook.
Okay.
One's one of my old vintage ones. I picked out the best ones, the ones that gave me shivers when I wrote them. So it's got one older one and one new story in it. So
okay.
I think they turned out really well, and so I think everybody's going to enjoy them. It's some really dark rural stuff. It's not like splatterpunk or extreme, or it's just some my Southern Fried stories.
Is there like an overarching theme for them all, or are they just?
No, it's just individual stories.
Okay.
They all have a dark rural feel to them. So it's got that same feel throughout all three of them.
Did you get to do the covers for these, or did somebody else do the covers?
No, Luke Spooner did those covers.
Okay.
He's doing the covers for all of them, and he did a great job. I love those covers.
I love his work. He does a lot of stuff for Curtis Lawson, and I love his art style.
That's where I heard a name. There's so many of them that we've seen before. The name sometimes kicks in, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I know where you saw the name now. Okay.
He did Stargazers by LP Hernandez recently. It's all blue. The guy's looking up at the sky. I like his art style. And speaking of covers, I have to mention him because I feel like I mention him almost every episode. But Justin T. Coons did the cover for Southern Fried Horrified, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I feel like every new cover he does is my new favorite cover that he's done.
I'm so blessed to have that cover. I mean, we worked together. I kind of gave him a general idea what I'd like to see on it, and he took it from there. And I saw it, every step of the way. He started putting out these progression.
Yeah, I think he did yours already too. Like the other
day he just did mine like yesterday, I think, or a day before yesterday. But it's fascinating to see. I've got some stuff that Alex McVeigh, kind of progression photos like that all my artists send me. We kind of work through the cover, and they do step by step and send me the images, and I so I pretty much see the whole process all the way through it, from beginning to end.
I feel like that has a lot of like almost little Easter eggs from a bunch of your books all on the.
It does.
The T. Coons cover.
It's got the snake critter from Fear. It's got like the spider from La Sanguinaire, and it's got the man-eating caterpillar from Consumption. It was in the Essential Six stuff. Consumption was an old story. That was I think I published that in 1988. With the man-eating caterpillar in it. And, that was one of those stories that gave me the shivers when I wrote it. I'd sit up late at night, and it'd be dark except for a little lamp or something like that. And I think I typed that on a regular typewriter, and you feel like something was going up the back of your neck.
Up your neck.
Yeah.
Did you want Justin from the get-go to do the cover for that, or did you?
Yeah, I specifically asked for Justin for that.
Okay.
I said I want, but I had no idea it was going to turn out so beautiful. I mean, it's just.
I love the color palette and everything about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. He did. I mean, his color work is incredible. Anyway, I don't think I've ever seen the horror artist that uses like the really bold, bright colors that he does. But
yeah,
I mean, I could be happier with the cover of this book. I mean, I'm just and actually he sent me the original painting, so I've got.
I was going to ask, does he have an actual painting of it,
mm-hmm.
which a lot of times they do. So, yeah.
And you'll be selling prints of that at the
your
party, right? Yeah,
I sold a few at Scares That Cares, and I've got maybe 30 more to sell. So, anybody that comes, come get a copy of the book and get a print to hang on your wall too.
Cool.
Every one of his covers looks like a movie poster. They're great.
It does.
I think he's done a movie poster or two as well.
Yeah,
he did.
I think he just did one for.
He did Worst Laid Plans, I know, the anthology.
Yes.
And I think he did. I know he's done another one, but yeah, I love his style.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, he was tickled about the billboard. I sent him a picture of
his work up there.
Yeah, see his work up there. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, Lynn. I showed it to Lynn Hanson. She said, "Can you imagine seeing your art that big?"
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
I love the detail of you with the typewriter on the front too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you and all your creations. It's like,
right. But if you will notice, we forgot to put a sheet of paper in the typewriter. So, but maybe I'm typing and it's just coming up in the air.
Yeah, it's coming out. Yeah,
that's what it is.
It's new technology, a paperless typewriter.
Right. Yeah, the horrors just hover around you.
Yeah. So it seems like you have so many things done and ready to go, and just to be released, but retirement's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do after retirement? Because these things you're talking about, they're ready to go. So you're saying, you're telling us off the air, you're telling us at the beginning of the show, you're ready to start everything else too. So,
well,
how many things do you have ready to go in your brain that you just need to put on paper?
Oh, I've got enough to last me till they shovel the dirt over my face. But we still got some of the Zebra books put out in paperback. We're going to be putting them out in the next couple of years, and I got more short stories to write. I think I'll do another Christmas collection. I don't think I can do another Halloween collection. I think I'm all Halloweened out, but I could surprise you maybe. But because at the end of the year, between the two Halloween collections, the Halloween Store and Mr. Glowbones and Season's Creepings, I make a lot of royalties off seasonal horror. Between November and February, I get some really nice checks. So, for the writers out there, look into doing a Halloween collection or a Halloween novella or something, because people go back to them year after year, and discover them year after year.
Would you ever think about doing another holiday themed, like a President's Day one? That holiday in February?
I actually have an idea to do like a history one, like with like different, almost like alternative history kind of horror stories. I wrote a one called The General's Arm, where General Robert Lee dug up Stonewall Jackson's arm after it was amputated and took it to the seventh son of a seventh son and conjured up a whole new Stonewall Jackson, but he was an evil Stonewall Jackson, so
okay.
And so that was like a novella length, so I may put that in a collection with some other like history things, because that I used to read books about the Bell Witch, and there was a chapter about where Andrew Jackson actually stayed at the Bell House and encountered the witch, and so I think that would be kind of cool to bring in some historical figures and write horror stories around them.
I mean, it's cool. Historical fiction, but you're going extreme with it. You're totally changing history altogether. So
yeah.
Next is a Thanksgiving one. That'd be fun. Do some Thanksgiving horror.
Thanksgiving or Easter. Maybe some kid bites into a chocolate bunny and there's something in there that shouldn't be in there or something.
Yeah. I could see you, because I know you're a big Civil War buff. You could do some like Civil War horror stories. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I could probably do that. Because, one of my favorite writers was Ambrose Bierce, and he wrote a lot of Civil War based kind of weird horror stories, Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'd love to do that. Everybody does a lot of Western horror now, splatter Westerns and stuff like that, but I don't know if everybody's scared to touch on the Civil War because a lot of people consider the Confederates to be almost Nazi-like, but I had family fight on both sides, during the Civil War, and I had several of them got hanged, and I actually have one of my great grandfathers was considered to be a Confederate spy, and actually fled off to the Old West. So that, I think that story my grandmother told me alone kind of motivated a whole lot of my interest in the way I write, like Western horror and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, and as evil as the Nazis were, there's lots of Nazi horror out there, and the Call of Duty video game, they have the mode, Nazis or zombie Nazis or whatever it's called. So, and that's more recent than Civil War. So I feel like you could do Civil War if it's done tastefully.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would.
Let's say Kurt Vonnegut, The Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. It's the best short story I've written.
Yeah, I love that story. I remember they did Twilight Zone did a episode with that story, and it was very, that's one thing when I grow up, the Twilight Zone. I love the Twilight Zone and some of the old Alfred Hitchcock, presents and all that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about all I had, and then of course when I was older, they had the Tales from the Dark Side and Creep Show, not Creep Show, but Tales from the Crypt, the one that had the old puppet looking corpse looking.
Yeah.
Crypt
don't you have did I see somebody with like a card or something of you, but it's similar to Alfred Hitchcock?
Yeah.
I think somebody was doing like an unpackaging that they got a couple of books from you and showed that card.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
When Justin's cover came out, everybody said, that looks like Alfred Hitchcock, the Southern Fried Alfred Hitchcock. It was my profile and all that. So Alex McVeigh drew up this little, Southern Fried, Hitchcock. So I put it on a laptop sticker and I'll give it out. With
that's what it was. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'll have to send y'all some.
Yeah. And you still, when people buy directly from you still are putting your own art inside.
Yeah. That's that might be one reason, they might have to wait a week or two before they get it.
I think they'll handle that fine.
Yeah. People seem to like me drawing in the books because I'll go to a convention and I'll say, I'm sorry, I'm going to draw in your book. And they say, well, go ahead. Some people I'll start drawing in it and they'll be going like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
I think that's cool because that's, that book is like, you might draw the same thing in every book, but each one's just a little bit different. It's all unique for each one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever I put a book out, I have a set image in my mind what I'm going to draw in them. Like in After the Burn, I have the skeleton with the Uzi, and that takes me at least 20 minutes to draw that one.
Right. Speaking of After the Burn, where did that whole concept come from? It's how many stories is in there?
Here he is.
Yeah, there's a snake critter. After the Burn,
they're all connected with like the same theme, which is
Right,
what I
yeah.
really got a kick out of it. But there's like different scenarios happening with the same theme.
I got the idea for that because back in the 80s, I wrote a story called Flesh Welder, which was a post-apocalyptic, almost novella-length story. And when I came back in 2006, that was the first publication I had. We did a little chapbook with that story and an interview with me in the back. And Zach McCain did the cover for that, and it just got the wheels turning. And I originally wanted to do almost like a collection art book with Zach doing a lot of the drawings in it and everything, but we couldn't get a publisher to pick it up because it would have so much art. We actually wanted to do color art in it, but then years later I pitched it to Paul at Thunderstorm, and he did a hardcover edition of After. I wrote stories and two novellas, and I think it was 6 short stories, and put them together, and we did After the Burn, and then we brought it back with D&T for a really nice paperback, and Zach did 17 pieces of art inside. So and I'm fixing one of my projects when I retire is I'm going to do a novel length. It's going to be a novel of After the Burn. It's going to be a sequel to it with some of the surviving characters in it. And
nice.
It's going to be called After the Burn Exodus.
Okay.
I can see that because I mean, without giving away what happens in it, it's after the burn. I mean, you could figure it out, but you really see the evil within people come alive in it. You know, we're not talking like your typical monsters and stuff that you might have in some of the other ones. It's like the people, the real evil within the people just come out because everything's went to shit, you know?
Right. I kind of stepped over some lines with that book. I put some stuff in there that, you know, maybe I shouldn't have, but
you're just highlighting the people could go that low.
Right.
Yeah.
I just was trying to think up, and I wrote that book at a time where I thought I'm going to have to step up my game a little bit because, people were putting out, extreme horror and stuff like that. And I felt like my fiction was just a little bit watered down compared to some folks. So I just pulled out all the stops and wrote After the Burn.
Do you think
it's one of Brian's favorite books of mine? So Brian Keene's favorite books. So
do you think it's your most extreme thing, or do you think the stuff in Essential 6 stuff is
Essential? There's a lot in After Burn that's pretty extreme, but there's a lot in Essential 6 stuff that I've crossed some lines with some of that too, like the nipples and Dad's toolbox was one. I mean, just the title alone, But that was weird because I had an idea for a story. I thought, what if a kid got in his dad's toolbox and found a baby food jar, and it had 2 human nipples in it, and that's all that came to my mind. I couldn't think of anything else, so I wrote it on a piece of paper and stuck it in a jar, and so years later I found that piece of paper and I thought, what the crap is this? But then the wheels started turning and I knew what direction it needed to go. So, that was a good thing.
If this show ever, if this show ever dies, at least we could say Ronald Kelly said nipples on our show.
It's funny that you found that note years later. It's like, why did I write this? What is this?
I had a coffee can back when I stopped writing for 10 years, and I would get an idea in my head and I'd write it down and I'd stick it in that coffee can. Well, like 2 or 3 months ago, I found that coffee can again, and it's crammed full of ideas.
So that's where all the ideas are coming from.
Yeah.
Well, I hadn't even gotten those out yet. I found the nipple one,
He's just scratching the surface. This is gonna be crazy next few years.
I think the day I retire, I'm gonna dump that out on my desk and go through it and see what's there. You know, maybe that'll be another 10 or 12 years worth of stuff to work on.
That'll be fun to go through that and like see if you remember some of it. Some of it's like, why did I write this down? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or if you interpret it the same way, maybe you do remember it, but maybe it's changed now to stay with the way today's society is. You know, it might have been cutthroat at that time, but now, like you said, everyone's releasing more extreme things, and you feel like you may have to keep up. So, making a few adjustments, you know, we'll see what you bring us. So
I like to write the extreme stuff, but I like to write my nostalgic kind of fun. You know, I like to have fun when I write. I don't like to put a lot of dark, angst-ridden, stuff in mine like some horror writers do. When you have a cardboard skeleton coming to life and skinning somebody and walking away with their skin. That's the kind of story I like to write.
It's got that pulp
fun extreme
to it.
Yeah. Pulpy fun extreme,
right?
That's a new genre. We just created it right now. Fun extreme.
I'm basically a pulp writer. I don't deny that. I mean, I came up with Zebra, and they're about as pulpy as you can get.
Mm-hmm. And like those are still the 80s horror movies, which are like pulpy, cheesy. They're my favorite horror movies. There's just something about them that I don't feel like can't be replicated today. They're just different.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think they couldn't pull it off like they used to.
Like if you did it today, everybody would be like, "Oh, that's dumb. That's cheesy. It doesn't make any sense." But pulling them from the 80s, I don't know. There's just something magical about it, I guess is the best way I can put it.
But you might find that one geeky cinema expert like, "Oh no, this is like this is paying homage to this movie and this movie," and then really dig into it, but then get made fun of.
I'm sure someone could pull it off, but they're horror movies. Like I love horror movies today, and I love them from the 80s and 70s. But they're not the same today as they used to be.
No, they wouldn't. I grew up. I was going to a theater when John Carpenter was big, and I saw Halloween and The Thing, and I actually saw The Thing with my mother. My mother loved horror movies, and she would Daddy wouldn't go to the horror movies with her, so she'd take me, and I was like 11, 12 years old, and she dragged me off to see Let's Scare Jessica to Death or House of Dark Shadows or something. And when
so now we know where you get this from.
Yeah. And when The Thing came out, she got to the part where the guy's head pulled off and turned into a spider, and she just got up and left. She said whoever made this was on drugs. So so she got up and left. And I watched the end of it by myself, But I think that was the last horror movie we went to together.
She gave up after that one.
I think so.
Hamlin Bird's got a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
I was going to say it's fun. It's fun to watch like a streaming service like Sutter because they'll have some stuff from the 70s, 80s you never heard of before. As far as movies go, growing up, you got the mainstream stuff that were in theaters, but they show stuff that you've never heard of before, and it's just really weird. But go ahead.
My top movie that I love is Creature of the Black Lagoon because that was the first one I saw at the age of 6, and that just up until then I'd only watched cartoons and Captain Kangaroo. I'm showing my age here, but we had there was a show after school, and they showed all the Universal horror movies and the 50s sci-fi horror movies, and the first one I saw was Creature of the Black Lagoon. It got me hooked, and some other horror movies I like was like Let's Scare Jessica to Death, and a lot of the 80s ones like Carpenter's The Fog. I love that.
Yeah,
and
that's a good one.
I liked Halloween 3, with the mask that
Season of the Witch.
Yeah, Season of the Witch. I like that one, and so yeah, I would watch all those in the theater. Back then you didn't have DVDs or even cassettes, when I started watching horror movies. So you'd go back to the theater 3 and 4 times to see your favorite movie,
Yeah.
And, but
it was a dime.
It was like $1.25 or something when I was.
Do you like the Scream movies? Have you seen the Scream movies?
I've never seen a Scream movie. I guess I need
You're
to
not missing anything.
I don't.
Oh,
I'm pretty much like Jay. The kids. I mean, the kids are teenagers now, but I just. My wife, she likes her Hallmark movies. She don't like. After we got married, one of the first movies we went to see was Silence of the Lambs, and I think that kind of did it for her. She that kind of ruined her. She didn't want to watch, and we went and watched Cujo too. She didn't like Cujo very much.
I took my wife's parents to see Saw, either Saw 1 or Saw 2. I think Saw 2.
That was a horrible mistake.
I don't remember if we were married yet or if we were engaged, but they wanted to take us out to the movies. And I don't know how I was able to pick, but I think it was Saw 2, and they won't let me live it down. That was how many years ago, and they won't let me live it down today. So.
That's a great choice. Impressing dad.
You don't take your in-laws to see the Saw movies. I will recommend the first Scream movie is really. I think the first Scream movie is great. You should definitely check that one out sometime.
Yeah, I'll have to do that.
It's very, very meta on sort of the rules of surviving a horror movie and stuff.
Oh yeah, the first one's fine.
First
we
one's
didn't
good.
need the other 5 or 6 or 7.
They're making a 7th one too because Sidney Prescott's not going to be in the new one.
We don't need them. We don't need them at all. So,
real quick, I wanted to go back to After the Burn because you mentioned that you felt like maybe you went too far on certain things.
Yeah.
Do you ever regret writing anything like that? Like, I shouldn't have done that, and wish you could have done it different. Or you just
sometimes some of I've got like 2 different kinds of fans: the ones that like the extreme horror that I do, and some who like fear and some of the more traditional ones. And I'm afraid sometimes I think, well, they're going to get a hold of After the Burn or Sexual Sick stuff, and they're going to get so disgusted they're not going to want to read that stuff anymore. So there's that kind of thing to think about, but everybody seems to I kind of give them a warning. I say, well, you might not like this as much as the other stuff because it's got more of a kick to it.
Well, I think After the Burn was obviously it was on the extreme side, but it had reasons for it. It wasn't gratuitous. It wasn't like just trying to one up itself. It wasn't,
I didn't do gore for gore's sake.
Right. And again, I mean, I've said it a billion times that I don't care for the gore for gore's sake. I don't care one upping yourself chapter to chapter. If there's a reason behind it, if it fits with the story, then and that's one reason why I was able to get through After the Burn. Yeah, it was a little bit more extreme than what I normally read, but I enjoyed it. I looked at it from a different perspective for it. So
yeah, I saw your review of it, and you was kind of I don't know what I just read.
Scarred me. It scarred me.
Yeah, some people get an opinion of old Ron, and they think they know me, and then they read something like that, and they don't really know me at all.
Jay, you're talking about that, and that one, the people are really evil, and you talked about a lot in your memoir that you like sort of black and white characters. You don't really like the in between. You like good, evil characters.
I guess that's just the old school in me. That I like the traditional good versus evil stories. I mean, that's pretty much what I write. But when it comes down to short stories, I mean, a lot of times the protagonists don't come out well at the end of the short story.
Yeah.
Good doesn't always have to win.
Some people say I don't like your short stories. I didn't know what happened, to the characters. I said, well, that's basically what a short story does. It brings you up to a certain point and then leaves you hanging, and then you kind of have to work it out in your head what happened.
Or I like when the bad guy wins. I don't think that happens enough.
I love when the bad guy wins.
I don't think that happens enough.
Now, see, if I had a book. If I had a book where the bad guy wins, I'd have to write another one where the protagonist came back and say, right, you know.
You got to even it out, or the world's not.
You got to do a trilogy.
Correctly.
You got to do with your middle ones.
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back, where the bad guys win, then the good guys win in the final one.
Yeah, I actually, when I was writing for Zebra, thought I was going to do a trilogy of Blood Kin with the, because I had the whole second book worked out in my head, so I may sit down and write a sequel to Blood Kin.
Do it. You're going to have the time. You may as well do it.
Yeah.
Because there was at the end there was one character who was still a vampire, and I always thought it would be good to have like this clandestine group of religious leaders, like one's like a rabbi, one's a Catholic priest, and one's a Baptist preacher, and they go fight vampires and kind of turn vampires back into human, that by some process. I thought, well, that might be something to bring in the second book.
There you go, Brad. You love vampires, don't you?
I do. Vampires, just you could say vampire. I'm automatically interested in the book, regardless of what else it's about, as long as there's a vampire in it. Except Twilight, I haven't read the.
I was gonna make a joke about Twilight, but he said except for Twilight. I haven't watched those or read those, and have no interest.
They were kind of they were strange vampires. I never read any of the books. I saw the first movie, I think. But
do you think Twilight kind of messed up vampires, kind of like The Walking Dead messed up zombies? Or
I think so.
I think so. Yeah,
just kind of took people, interest out of it because it's just over the top.
I think it was for two different reasons. Walking Dead is oversaturated because everyone was doing zombies, and Twilight was just, it was so different. It was like this romantic, glittery love story, just turned people off on it.
Bright lights and perfect hair and
sparkling.
The one guy was a werewolf, right?
And I never watched it. That's just for the previews. I mean, I never watched.
I don't know the full history of all that.
You got three old dudes here talking about Twilight.
And if you like it, that's great. You can like it. Just it's not for me. I won't knock you if you like it though.
Well, I will.
You will. I will say, last time you were on, just to segue into something different, we'll get away from Twilight. Last time you were on, I think we asked you if you'd ever collaborated with anybody, and you said no.
No,
but now you are. But now you're collaborating with someone right now, aren't you?
Yes, me and James Newman are working on a book, and it's not a horror book. It's going to be a dark crime suspense book. Very brutal. James is good at writing those kind of books anyway, and me and James, we knew each other for years. I actually, after he had his accident where the tree limb fell on him, I went out and saw him in North Carolina and all that, and we kind of lost touch for a few years. And then I think he was on the Dead Headspace podcast and talked about fear and all that, and I got back in touch with him, and we just kind of brought up that we'd like to write together, and we came up with a good idea, and so we've got about a third of that written, and we actually have a publisher interested in it. I can't tell you who the publisher is right now, but
that's for the Patreon after show. You got to pay extra for that.
Yeah,
I've been segueing into crime stuff the past few months. I'm really starting to really get into it, so I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, it's pretty dark, I've always been a solo act. I don't know if it has to do with pride or ego or something like that, but I always like to drive my own story and all that. But I'm having fun with this with James. It's been a pretty easy. He's co-written with a lot of people, and he pretty much kind of guides me through how we do it. We pretty much, like, I'll write a chapter and he'll write a chapter, and we send it to each other, and we kind of put our own touches on it, and and kind of debate about certain things. Would this character really say this or stuff like that? And there's really a lot. When you're writing with somebody else, you've got somebody, double checking your work and you're double checking theirs. So
Right.
It's not just like, well, I wrote this, so it's perfect. But
for your next memoir, though, you have to say that there was fighting and you didn't get along at all.
Hated each other.
Outside the next memoir for when I'm 100, 102. So.
Look, I remember writing with this guy. We won't say his name now.
Is this the first time you've written something strictly crime?
Yeah, well, I've written some stories before that had a true crime feel to them. There was several stories in Central Six stuff that was kind of like serial killer crime kind of stories, and so I've always, and there was a point in the early 19. Well, it was like the mid 1990s that horror was gravitating towards suspense. I think it was due to the publisher. The publishers were trying to quell, the horror enigma and call everything dark suspense and stuff like that. And they were wanting more crime. I mean, I wrote 12 Gauge, which is basically a crime book. I mean, there could be some supernatural elements in it, but I just kind of allude to that. You never know for sure whether he's seeing his executed father. You don't know if it's actually a ghost or if it might be something in his mind or something else. But I wrote, there was several stories I wrote for Cemetery Dance in the early to mid 90s that has more of a crime feel to it.
I can see people putting some crime to an extent under the horror umbrella because people stretch that horror definition all the time. There's so much different subgenres underneath it. So
I used to like to read true crime books, but if I read too many, they get to me. I tell you, it's the same way with watching stuff on Netflix, like true crime stuff, because you'll go to bed at night and think about it for a long time.
It's like, did I lock my door? Did I lock my window?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think those are creepier than like the vampires and zombies and all that stuff. The true crime is the stuff that can actually happen. That freaks me out more than anything else would.
Right. Have y'all seen the show that Netflix show Mindhunter?
Mindhunter.
Yes.
I love that.
Disappointed they canceled it.
Yeah.
And there's been rumors of bringing it back, but it's not going to be fast enough. Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Now, I like the first season better, but I did like when they brought in Manson and stuff because in the Son of Sam, it was cool because they actually got people who look like them. I mean, acted like
the guy who plays is his name Ed Kemper?
Ed Kemper. Yeah.
That actor was great.
And
That's the big one, right?
Yeah. He's like the blue jean jacket kind of shirt on or whatever, and the glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to sit down and rewatch those 2 seasons because, I just like the way it was. I mean, the way it was presented, how they were, kind of interviewing the serial killers and then kind of drifted into different cases.
Yes. I love that show.
Yeah, the first season I can see why you like it, the way it was set up, and then the second season it was like, okay, we're gonna put a bit more money into it.
The killer in Atlanta was season 2, right?
Yeah. It was almost, and the storyline with the little boy, got killed, and his
son or whatever,
his adopted son or whatever was involved. That didn't seem quite. That seemed like a stretch to me.
Yeah. It seems like this goes back to my comment earlier about Netflix. It's like they add too much to stuff sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes I kind of think, well, that's a good thing. We'll expound on that, but it kind of sometimes it goes beyond what everybody wants. Actually,
yeah, because that storyline didn't do much for the. I mean, they did try to put in that he's got the serial killer gene or whatever, but it didn't do much for the cases that they were investigating. I didn't.
Right. Yeah. It actually it bogged down the storyline, if you ask me.
Yeah. I feel like that was more set up for what would have been maybe season 3 or 4.
Yeah, maybe.
They just didn't get to it. Because from season 1, they've been teasing BTK Killer, and they never actually got to him. He's just in the background the whole time.
Right. Yeah, I would have liked to seen them, go on to kind of expand on his story.
There was a rumor around January they were going to look into doing it again. So
I feel like that was the end game was at the end they were going to catch BTK, and it was leading up to it through the whole thing.
I mean, why else would they have those little snippets in the beginning of each one? So yeah,
and because I think it's David Fincher, right, that did it. I think it's David Fincher that directed it and everything.
I think so.
Because I think he got involved with other projects and he just didn't have time to do it, and he didn't want to hold the actors in those contracts, so he released them all. But I would love for it to come back for season 3 because I thought it was great.
Yeah, I thought it was too.
Nick's got a question for you. Do you have an underrated author that you think deserves more props?
Well, there's a lot of them out there, really.
If you could name one, so you're not here all day.
I really love Bridget Nielsen's collection. She put out Bouquet of Viscera. I thought that was really. It's a beautiful book. I mean, the interiors,
the cover's great.
The cover's great, and my wife almost bought a dress with that cover on it because Lynn does dresses. She does dresses and stuff. But Joyce bought one that had the spats that made the skull kind of design. So she's going.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Bridget's one of my favorite new authors, and I really like Christopher Triana, his work.
He's good.
And Daniel Volpe and Aaron Bogard. I like their work. They have some extreme stuff. And Patrick C. Harrison III, I like his work. He can get really down and dirty in his stories.
The cover for his new book, I think it's called Grandpappy.
Grandpappy, yeah. I hadn't read that yet.
Gnarly foot. That's gross.
One of my kids said, "Daddy, that looks like your foot on the." I said, "Thanks a lot." Yeah.
And Bridget, she's going to be at your party.
Yeah,
right?
Bridget will be there with Jeff and Lynn, and she's going to be signing copies of her book too. So, and I was hoping James Newman would come, but he's traveling with his job that weekend, won't be able to come. So,
you got to fire him as a co-writer now. He's out.
That's going to be in the memoir. Watch why they broke up. Yeah,
he didn't come to my party. He's out.
Yeah. So keeping along with that, before we hop into this question, but keeping along with that, those are some of the underrated ones you think needs more attention. With all of these projects you have coming up and after retirement, what's going to be successful to you? Does it even matter at this stage because you already have this reputation, or do you think you need to make each one of these a big hit?
I don't even think about them being a big hit. I just like to write them and have people enjoy them. I think, some of the older books are really, I mean, I put the Darken out, which was something out there. Zebra put it out as something out there. I put the Darken out. It's got the crow sitting in the middle of the doves on the cover.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And people are drawn to that cover, and I can't keep it in stock. I just put another order in for it. I hope they like the book, because that was a really weird book. Zebra didn't know what to do with it because it's got like fantasy and horror and science fiction elements all through it. And so they didn't know how to market it, but it's a favorite of mine because, these changelings in this book can turn into anything. They turn into like the Frankenstein monster and dinosaurs and ninjas and anything you can think of. It was a wild book.
I never realized those were doves on the cover. I thought it was a crow in a bunch of eyeballs is what I thought.
Well, actually, every time I look at it, I think it's a crow with a bunch of boobs around it.
We got Ronald Kelly to say boobs and nipples,
Boobs
on
and nipples.
our season finale of season 3.
Don't tell my wife, okay? Let's
He's
just
on a
keep
billboard
it,
for.
let's
he's on a
keep it
billboard
above
for
the
5.
navel, and we'll be okay. Okay.
Okay.
This is the late show right now. We're after hours, right?
Yeah.
Christina's
Somebody-
got a question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody's asking which book I would recommend start with. I would say Fear. Start with Fear because that's my magnum opus and that's my favorite book I've written. And I think so many people have made a connection with that book, So I'd say start with Fear and then maybe do Undertaker's Moon or Bloodkin and maybe some of the short story collections, maybe the Halloween collection. And I wouldn't start with the Essential Six stuff or something. Read some of my Tamer work, and if you want to go a little stronger, you can go with After the Burn or Essential Six stuff.
Mr. Glowbones is pretty fun, I thought.
Yeah, I love Mr. Glowbones. Plus, I put some artwork in that one. It's got my artwork in it.
I was going to say something that completely just went out of my head. I don't know what it was. I was looking in the comments.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're going to have a pretty busy retirement as we wind down. Down here.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're going to be. I mean, it sounds busy, but it's going to be enjoyable for you because I could just see all of these projects you just want to get out there and give to us to check out. So it's going to be interesting to see all of your projects come to a head and once you take over the horror universe here.
Yeah, right now I'm struggling as far as finding time to write. I mean, I'll write on the weekends well into the night or something till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and when I get home from work, I'll get in an hour or two. But after I retire, I can get up and I won't have to get up at 3:30 in the morning anymore. I can just sleep in a little and then get up and sit down and have a full day of writing. So it's gonna be nice.
Yeah. When you are retired, are you going to create a routine for yourself? Or are you going to try to write so many hours a day, or are you just going to?
Yeah, I'm gonna, because there's a lot more to writing than just writing the books. It's like, I'll devote some time to do my social media and signing books and getting ready to ship and stuff like that.
Well, I think you got to take a break too. So I mean, enjoy your retirement. You got to take a break.
Oh yeah,
step away from everything. And
no, I'm not gonna kill myself trying to write books or anything like that. I'd like to, me and the family love to travel and all that. We went out west before COVID and we drove all the way to California and back. Which was cool. It was a long drive.
That's a long drive.
We rented a van and brought it back and had 8,000 miles on it. So I'm sure the rental company loved that.
Yeah.
But that was fun driving out there. I mean, I love the desert because I'm here in Tennessee where everything's green and everything, and you get out there in the desert and it's completely different. And everybody out there, they probably come to Tennessee and think that was incredible, But
did you draw any inspiration from anything on that trip, like stuff from the desert or anything?
I am with Dead-Eye.
Okay.
So because Dead-Eye 3 is going to take place in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and so I'm going to draw from a lot of because we'd go out in the desert and hike down into the canyons and stuff in New Mexico and Utah. So we actually went to Bryce Canyon and hiked 7,000 feet down into the canyon and back up. And I don't know if I could do that now. The older I get, the slower I get, but
the more noises you start to hear.
The more kids I fuss at on my lawn, So
there is one thing I want to ask you. I'm not really asked, but just mention from your memoir that I felt was like the most intriguing part was when you were in school they took everybody on the bus to wherever they took them, and they gave you all a shot, and
Right.
brought you all back, and no one knows what it was. That was just
No.
like, what is going on here?
No, I remember that. I mean, I was in the first grade. I was 6 years old. I remember that vividly. I remember. I mean, I was scared to death. I didn't know. You know, they took us to this high school and made us take off our clothes except for underwear, and I remember there was 2 doctors. You went down the line and they examined you, and then they gave you a shot, and then you put your clothes back on, put you on the bus, and took you back to school. And
Like the whole thing reeks of conspiracy theory.
yes,
Yes. Wow.
well, you know, a couple days later, my arm was all bruised and hurting and everything. My mother took me to the pediatrician, and he said, "Well, somebody's giving him a shot," and I'd never gotten shots other than, you know, at the pediatrician. So my mother, she went off. She was, you know, contacting the teachers.
Like no consent for that at all?
No. And trying to find out what that shot was, and everybody was denying that it ever happened. And they said, well, he's just making that up. You know, that never happened. But, you know, there was neighborhood kids that had gone through the same thing and told their parents. But Mama never did find out what kind of shot
Tracking
they gave.
device.
Yeah, it could be. I always thought I was going to wake up and flame on or something.
That's
Did
nuts.
Did you ever get inspiration to write a story about that? Because that's like the perfect seed for science
No,
fiction or
you know,
some crazy horror story or something.
that would be a good idea for a story. And you know, that actually, when I was 4 years old, a coffee percolator fell on my arm, you know, and scalded my arm, and I had scarring all on my arm. I still got it, you know, because back then they didn't do a lot of plastic surgery and all that.
Right.
And that was like 1963 or something like that. And but I did write a story called Dead Skin, where this doctor finds out that there was like this laboratory in the bottom of the hospital, and somebody had been doing like genetic experiments, some doctor back in the 60s, all that, and it had flashbacks to where he had been burnt as a child and taken to that hospital. So, and that story's in Essential 6 stuff, I think. It's called Dead Skin. But that was, I mean, a lot of the flashbacks I had in that story was actually what I remembered when they took me to the hospital after my arm got burned.
I was just reading that about you getting the shot and no one knew what was going on. I was like, what is going on here? This is such a weird thing.
It was.
That would be like the perfect opening chapter to a book. Like all the kids are on the bus, get the secret shot. The parents don't know what it is. And then whatever happens, they start to mutate or who knows what.
That would be a good book. Maybe I'll write that.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, we're not gonna keep you any longer, so you can go ahead and get to that story and get closer to all your projects.
Expect it next week, Ron.
Yeah.
On my desk.
Could happen.
But once again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. We can't thank you enough for stopping by. 2 dopes with microphones here, just chatting along, and it's always great when you stop by. And I can't believe we've talked this long.
I always enjoy spending time with y'all. Y'all are fun to be with.
I really appreciate it. And we can't thank you enough, honestly. So hopefully you'll be back again. This is going to be it for us for about a month, right, Bradley?
Yeah.
You have a little break.
Yeah.
Maybe Jay will write something. You gonna write something, Jay?
I got this basement behind me to work on, man. Yeah, so I gotta get that done. As soon as I get it done, though, I am required to write some stuff. So yeah.
To answer Hamlin's question real quick, it's 12 gauge, right? Or is it Father's Little Helper?
12 gauge.
12 gauge. Okay.
Yeah.
And a Father's Little Helper.
Well,
was title, right?
Zebra named it Father's Little Helper, which I hated because I thought it sounded like a children's book. But
yeah,
I'm actually to blame for that because I part 1 of that book I named it Father's Little Helper, and they thought, hey, let's use that as the title. So that was my fault.
I thought it was funny in your memoir, like when you were going through all your Zebra books, you're like, yeah, this was the original title, and I hated the one that Zebra picked, and this was the original title, and I hated the one Zebra picked.
That was always a you know, you didn't know until you got the cover flat what the cover was going to look out, or what the title was going to be.
Yeah. I guess the best one they did was Fear, and I guess Bloodkin was theirs too, right? Or was that the original?
Yeah, but the thing about Bloodkin, the back cover copy is nowhere near what the story is.
Doesn't do it justice at all.
No, it's like a whole different book.
Decoy.
Yeah,
that's like
people mad. Like, I thought it was about unicorns and rainbows.
That's like the Jack Ketchum book, The Girl Next Door, with the skeleton with the cheerleader outfit on the front. Like, that's not what this book is.
It's nuts. All right, everybody, everyone in the chat, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it, for your support, all this stuff. Ron, again, we can't thank you enough. Thanks so much for hanging out with two dopes here. Totally
thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on.
That's going to do it. This is a wrap, everyone. Until we meet again. Glad you got to see me.
On September 6th, go buy Southern Fried Horrified. It's an excellent memoir.
Of course, we'll be talking about it on Twitter and promoting it and all that stuff. Until then, till next season, everyone. Season 3's a wrap. That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Love you, Jay.
I know you do.
Love you guys.
Love you, Ron.